Welcome back, everyone. WFS Live continues, and we're getting towards the home straight of this second day of a 5-day virtual event. Great to have you with us once again. Another quick social plug, very, very briefly. If you want to spread the word about what we're doing, make sure that you use the hashtag WFS Live and you tag us in as well. On Twitter, we are at WF Summit. On Instagram, we are World Football Summit. And make sure that you let everyone know about what is going on this week. And we're getting into another big topic here. Earlier on, we talked about video analysis and the revolution of video analysis in partnership with Pixelot. Well, it doesn't take a brain surgeon to work out that revolution has been powered in no insignificant part by one main thing, and that is data, the proliferation of data, but not just its sheer amount and its accessibility, but its sophistication now. And as we discussed before, fans are ever more inquisitive and ever more demanding and sophisticated themselves, and what they ask for in terms of data. On the pitch, you can, of course, provide those marginal gains, the difference between a trophy and no trophy. But what about off the pitch? Many uses for it here too. It can help detect patterns of digital engagement, what and when fans are watching, as useful for broadcasters as it is for clubs themselves. We can also use analytics from social media to look at those fans on social and engage with them on those same platforms. And inside the stadium, we can go as far as this with you as you like. I mean, you've got fingerprint and retinal scans that help understand fan movements. If you know which fan buys what at the club shop, it can help predict maybe even ticket selling, ticket pricing, staffing on a match day. You can sell even more beer, and you can stop there being that traffic jam when you get to the stadium. Certainly, as someone who's covered plenty of games in my time, I can always tell you that would be very, very useful. And partnering also with other stakeholders, you can map a fan's broader behaviour before that they arrive at the stadium and after they leave. It is very much a 360 view. It's a 24/7 operation. Is it scary? Yes, admittedly it is. Is it fascinating? Absolutely, even more so. So let's dive into this topic in our next session, brought to you in collaboration with Driblab. And this is your panel of speakers. CEO and co-founder at Driblab, Salvador Carmona, head of football at Kin Partners, Ilhan Gundogan, the director of football at Leeds United, back in the Premier League after 16 years away, Víctor Orta, and the president of sports at Univision Communications Incorporated, Juan Carlos Rodriguez, and your moderator for this session, editor F, Miguel Angel Moreno Ramos. Miguel, this should be another compelling conversation, a real opportunity for us to drill down into the details. So over to you.
For sure, David. Thanks so much. Good afternoon, everyone. And thanks to the World Football Summit for having me in this magnificent panel. I'm Miguel Angel Moreno, sports business journalist from EFE, the leading newswire in Spanish. And we're going to talk about data. Data is the new gold. Sports analytics market is expected to reach $4 billion in 2022. And sports organizations are already investing. We have known recently that Sevilla is going to invest €500,000 in big data and analytics since starting next year. So there's a growing market with so many stakeholders involved. And let's start with Salvador Carmona, whose company, Driblab, has data from more than 100,000 players to give advice to club, agency, and media. Salvador, how do you use data in Driblab to help clubs to find the players that fit better to their objectives and style of playing? And how do you measure the return of this investment?
Well, first of all, thank you for being here today. I appreciate your time. I appreciate all you getting to this amazing panel. I am the CEO and co-founder of Driblab, a consultancy firm that uses technology to help football professionals analyze players and team using tailor-made data solutions. Going back to your question, Driblab helped clubs improve and increase their scope by analyzing data over 180 leagues, professional leagues, and over 50 youth leagues with over 150,000 players. We have the largest coverage in the market, and we cover the major leagues like the Premier League or La Liga. But of course, we care about everything else and leagues that everybody cares about in the football professional world, as the Brasileirão Under 17 or the UEFA Youth League. And this helps in the decision-making of clubs. It is important to mention that we don't collect data, rather we process the data. We spend thousands of euros every year internally purchasing this data, quantitative and qualitative data. With this information, we use our state-of-art technology and artificial intelligence to process all the information that there's on the football market. And thanks to that, we can see how players perform across different seasons, across different teams or leagues, in a way that we can compare apples to apples. And thanks to this, we process and we analyze not only players, but also teams and their styles and even price range for different clubs in different leagues and financial context, because we have over 30 clients worldwide, and it's not the same giving a solution to a club in Mexico, to a club in Brazil, to a club in Spain, to a club in the Premier League, etc. Going back to your second part of the question, how do you measure return? I guess return, it's a way of seeing results. In the 2018 and 19 season, before it's not this last transfer window, but the window before, because we still have not measured the ROI of this last COVID season, which has been not the greatest for anybody, really. But the season before, we were involved in about $600 million worth of transfers in a consultancy basis with the clubs. Those were beating the market by 5x, and by that we mean that the players we advised to, which were over 120 loans or player cases, are now worth 29% more according to Transfer Market. Transfer Market, it's not the end-all be-all website to analyze player value, but it has become a staple of the industry. And we're beating the market by 5x, so I think it's pretty good. And in terms of that's financial success. In terms of sports success, we've had 4 promotions and across the different leagues, and we've won several cups. One of them, Valencia's Cup, which we advised Valencia's senior management, in this case, Mateo Alemania and Pablo Longoria are no longer at the club. So we have many success cases, Lo Celso being one of them, from Paris Saint-Germain to Betis to Tottenham. This is actually on the website, even though it's confidential, it got leaked by someone else. And then we have other cases such as Federico Viñas at Club America, now international for Uruguay, and a plethora of other cases. We can analyze a lot of data for a lot of clubs in a fast way. Last year, we had a client that requested over 650 player requests in 1 year. That would mean that a club would need 50 scouts full-time, analyze different markets, etc., and we can just do it all in-house. And it's a small investment for a small to middle-sized club, but also a big club. We have services for the bigger clubs as well.
So interesting, Salvador. You have talked about many clubs. Let's talk about one of them and how they use this data and this information. Víctor Orta is director of football in Premier League's Leeds United, and he also had worked before in Sevilla, Valladolid, Zenit, and Middlesbrough. So, Víctor, tell us, how do you use data for recruiting players, and how data science helped you to reduce the risk of failing with a transfer?
Yes, I use a model mix. I am a bit tired about the war data or style, to be honest. I am really tired about that. It's for me 2 different things. For me, the all style, the recruitment, the scout, the human eye, the intervention of the human is still absolutely necessary in my work. Then is a point of view when you use the big data to grow vertically, no horizontal. This is my point of view. If you told me about percentage, can be 70% all style, 30 big data, or at the end, I use the big data for 3 things. Eventually, one of them, when we detected any player, and perhaps for a player, like in our case, Ben White, that we know in this season, we create a patterns that we put the player that we detected in the recruitment for noise style in our feed, in our system. The other, like Salva said, we cannot follow all the leagues because we are a reduced team, because we are a new promoted team. And then more times I use the big data to provide names to me in leagues that perhaps I know arrive, and then I need the due diligence from my scouting department. And another thing that I use the data, obviously, is for try compare the last decisions. By example, in our style of play, if our number 8 can steal a lot of balls in opposite side, then we can know certainty what is the decision. For signing a player, you need to cover 4 things. One is reduce the technical risk, that now with a lot of video analysis, live is difficult, but it's more easy. Physical analysis, even tools, you can find physical data from a lot of players, and then you can fit. And the other two, one for me is really, really good in the big data and intelligent artificial, the transition. You can detect it, a player performing in your country with another country, with a player, with a head coach, and then you need to decide if this player going to your team can perform or not. Then you can use objective data to try know, and obviously subjective, that is again the human intervention. And obviously the fourth is the psychological report, that obviously is a bit risky because we are talking about humans, we are talking about persons, we are talking about people that have feelings, have problems, have life, and then obviously you can try reduce the risk, but it's difficult. For me, the use of the data in the transition is absolutely deficit.
So Victor said we're talking about humans, about players. So they're the key part of this sport, and Kim Partners works with stars like Ilhan, Gundogan, and lots of great players like him. And Ilhan, head of football of Kim Partners, tell us, how do you use data working with athletes and also with artists and with brands? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, we use data in various circumstances, so it's not in various departments. Also, as you have said, we are a sports and entertainment agency. We are managing 360 our athletes, our clients, and actually, it's starts with the brand building to right holder sales or even image right sales, etc. But when we come back to full, for us, important tool to save money and time, money, and resources, and it helps us to identify young talents and help them to develop and approach them and show them that we really care also on their development. So it helps us to help a player to grow on various skills.
Interesting, Ilhan. And also data is crucial to enrich TV broadcasting services and offer more value to the audience. So Univision is a network who offers Champions League, Europe League, MS League, F1 to Mexico and United States. And Juan Carlos Rodriguez, president of the sport, can you tell us how are you using data to as an asset for your audience?
Yes, thank you. Thanks for the question. So first and foremost, we believe that data will be the core engine of growth for the future in the following aspect. If you put in a context the capabilities of personalizing the broadcast plus the 5G technology, now imagine that we can include 5G technology, and I'll explain that in a second, plus two types of data. The first one is the one generated by companies like Driblab, in which you get all of the information that you require, but also the data that comes from the audience, and you put both types of data together, plus the world of gambling, then you could, with the latency that will be now generated with the new technology, 5G, there will be almost zero latency in what happens. So what happens when you have a personalized experience, zero latency, all types of data, both from the pitch and from the viewer. And with gambling, you can create a new business, which is live gambling during the games. And we believe that the future of the growth of broadcasting and the growth of the value of rights and the growth of the value of players and so forth will be fueled by this new revenue stream that today doesn't exist, which is live gambling, according to different regulations on a per country basis. Now, today, the US, which is where I'm based, 11 out of the 50 states have already approved local state gambling on sports. And we believe that with the economic conditions that COVID has brought to the world, gambling will be growing across the planet. So data becomes an incredibly asset, both from a fan perspective and also from the data generated by the players at the pitch. So we believe that it's an incredible growth opportunity for the future for broadcasters.
So interesting. so interesting, Juan Carlos, because we're talking not only about clubs, but a lot of other things that could be useful. So, Salva, coming back to you, what solutions do you offer in Driblab to professionals, not only in clubs, thinking about agencies of players or thinking about media? What offer do you to them?
Well, we can offer media. We can offer personalized information that is tailor made to like the personalization on the audience that like Juan Carlos was saying. For example, here at Driblab, last natural year, we've done over 200 publications with different media sources. One of them sponsors this summit. We were actually on the cover of them on Friday, and we've done it global wide, and we've been featured in ESPN, Global, and South America, Brazil, and so we can offer them the content that is, that offers like the bit said at the beginning, another level of sophistication. That sophistication brings engagement, and that engagement brings money, as Juan Carlos was saying earlier. In terms of agencies, it's not too far from the club's needs. Just player identification, particularly at youth level, because we cover a lot of youth tournaments, and it's quite hard to predict who will make it, who won't. So as an agent, you want to make the best return on your investment, right? Because investing in these kids, I'm not even talking about money, but also time. That you need to take care of the player, etc., in order for the growth and development. So we offer that to the clubs, to the agents, and we also offer services to like leagues, like as a whole wide league. Because if you offer if you are, let's say you are hosting the Euro or the World Cup, you want to have the best national team possible, and the best way to have the best national team possible is to have the strongest national league as possible. And what makes your national league strongest is really the foreign competition, because your players are already there anyway. And the best example is Spain. Spain in the 90s, we had the Bosman regulation passed. Before that, Spain was a non-compete in any European tournament or World Cup. And since then, we've won three big titles, 2 Euros and 1 World Cup. We have 15. We were present at 15 Champions League finals. Atletico Madrid, Real Madrid, Valencia, Barcelona, and then many Europa Leagues, Espanyol, Sevilla, etc. And that really changed because we were able to acquire the best foreign talent. Now we're going to take it to the next level, having the opportunity of bringing the best players thanks to data that's driven by the fact that we cover over 180 leagues and 150,000 players. So you will get the best of the best, at least in theory. And then comes the psychological aspect that Víctor was saying earlier in the transition to the country.
I remind that we have a poll during this panel, and as we can see, most of people that are answering this poll say that their companies or their properties are having more investment in data analysis. 82% say yes, slightly, for this budget in data analysis. So it's very interesting that companies and properties are trying to use data for their own purposes. So, Víctor, you said before that you combine the data and also the old style of looking for players and doing the scouting. And how is working with data with the technical coaches? I mean, in the different clubs you have been, how they use it? It depends a lot of any different coaches. How is that?
Obviously, for me, it's 3 different situations. One is the own analysis. Imagine the data that now we have the physical data that you can make a lot of resource. By example, we have a program in Premier League that his name is Second Spectrum that gives you detailed the physical data in any aspect from you and the rival. And then obviously we can analyze our own performance. Obviously, analysis of the rival, that you use the data for a lot of circumstances, trends, by example, in which wide they have much efficiency, in which wide they are more risky, set pieces, all these things that we use and collect the data for analyze the rival. And in the terms of recruitment, why in the terms of recruitment? Obviously, each coach have a style to play. In my case, with our coach, really determined offensive style with the situation of the capacity, by example, in positions like fullbacks, and then it's really good for me because we can create patterns about the position of the player can be determined for one style that this player can be really good and perhaps not really good for us, and then it can be viewed for a good scout and then can be determined for the data, or the opposite side. By example, our range of passing in terms of center backs for us is really important because we build the action from behind, and then the range of passing of our center back is really determined. Then more times we use this data to try and make filters in the top 5 leagues in the world to try and find center back with really good range of passing. Obviously, this is the idea in global. No, the data is really a part of our life in the high performance in sports. All the teams using more or less. Then you need to, like always say, the important is not the information. It's try convert this information in knowledge. That for me is the really decisive and the really use for the data in this moment.
And I'm very curious about if athletes and players are really interested in what happens with his data. Ilhan, in your experience, are the players interested, and how is measured their performance in the pitch?
To be honest, I think when the final whistle comes, all these players or athletes, the top ones, they actually know if they have done a good performance or a bad performance. But obviously the data helps. If then you get your detailed data, what went well, what went wrong, and it definitely helps the guys. And if it is a one-off performance, or if it is a performance where they have weaknesses, or that they can improve and work on it. I mean, and once again, all these athletes, there is a reason why they are there, and data is a help for all of them to identify potential weaknesses or potential areas where they can improve. So these guys are, when they are smart and intelligent, it's a tool for them to help and develop and their careers, definitely.
And Juan Carlos, you said before, you talk about a lot of very interesting uses of data, but you working in the US, who is a market when sports are using data for years, because basketball and football are very skilled on using advanced data. So how did you see this situation from the US? Do you think they are going to improve more than we have talking now?
Yes, well, they will welcome data in soccer or in football, and that will forever change the way it looks. Still, as Victor stated in the conversation, there are two types of operating and a spectrum between that, which is how much you use that data from a knowledge perspective and how you turn that into acquisitions or decisions to be made. Having said that, we have the best example of baseball, which is by far the king of sports in terms of the data and the Moneyball experience. And from there, all of the teams have developed technologies. So what does this require in order to make it happen? It requires very serious investments at the stadiums. It requires very serious investment at the training facilities. It requires a very important commitment from the players and the coaches into delivering the correct data. So it's part of becoming more professional and more skilled and more committed to develop information, because it works on the health division, it works on the performance division, it works on the resting division, it types of information. So yes, I believe that the US will keep investing tons of money. And this is the data that it's generated at the sports level. Then the next question will be, what about the data that is generated from the fan perspective? Because when you start combining both and you start creating both information together, then the ability to generate tons of business opportunities is there. We foresee that eventually, it's almost inevitably that in the next I don't know how many years. Most of the leagues, teams, and national teams will try to connect as directly as they can with their fans. So we, the broadcasters, have to become a very relevant piece of information. Otherwise, they're going to get us out of the middle and try the leagues and teams to connect directly to the fans and take the middlemen out of the conversation. So it's a very interesting challenge that we have ahead.
I'm going to bring some questions from the audience to the table because we have many and very interesting. So one of them is about something you have said before, Juan Carlos. It's about gambling industry. Someone of our audience, Timothy Barton, ask if it's the moment from clubs and leagues to shun the gambling industry, to not use or not to collaborate with this industry. What do you think about that?
I believe that gambling, it's a very old habit that will continue. And it's going to be very hard to prohibit it because at the end it's data that is generated, and that data, the intellectual property of that data is going to be very challenging to control it. Therefore, I believe that it is better to jump into the pool and discuss it thoroughly and create a strategy and a position than just ban it and not take it into the consideration. I think there is no way out of this challenge, which is how does gambling will affect the future of sports, and each of the leagues and teams will have to define on their own what their perspective is. Double moral standards will start popping up everywhere because on one end they need the money, and on the other hand they want to rule it and be against it. So we, as the broadcasters, we are just storytellers. We'll be having a lot of fun telling the story.
And it's also a bigger issue than data that we are talking here. Salvador, we have two questions for you, and I'm going to mix it because Thak Ordet asked about how player values are determined, and another person, Glenn Streetholf, talks about if you see possible to create like a stock exchange of players, some kind of market. If you can see if their values goes up and down. What do you think about these two things?
Well, according to Liberalism 101, player value, it's the value that somebody's willing to pay for it. That's the easy way out of the question. Hard way out of the question is there are people that are specialized in player valuation, such as the website Transfer Market and many others, SIES side that it's based in Neuchâtel in Switzerland. They do some player evaluation, but the reality is that if a player's worth, if somebody's willing to pay 100 million euros for a player, that's whatever the player's worth, whether we like it or not. We don't do many player evaluations in house. We just recommend, and then people like Víctor decide if they're willing to pull the trigger on them or not, and obviously the ownership. The second question is, do I see a stock exchange? Well, we saw TPOs before, which it was kind of like that got shut down. But there are some companies that do stock exchange sort of analysis or product. There's the big one in the UK market, but I don't see that happening anytime soon in a wide scales because there's a lot of rules and regulations that go country by country. So I don't know if I don't see a worldwide Standard & Poor's of football players happening, to be honest.
But maybe we can see it. It's
yeah, you never know.
And Víctor, we have also a question for you. It's about I have asked you a lot about how to use data for recruiting, but Rana Ghoshal asks about how to use in leads data for fan engagement. I don't know if you can give us some ideas about that.
To be honest, I am not absolutely zero specialist about that. Enough problems I have to be involved in marketing decisions in this club. I have enough business to do that even be involved in marketing. We have Paul Bell and Angus Kinnear two massive specialists, the director management and the chief executive, that they are making amazing work. And I only know that we broke the record in revenues last year in championship. Then they are making good his job, and then I can spend the money. That is the real important.
And that's what you need, money for spending players. So, and Victor, there's another question for you. It's about if you're looking for in South America, if you have the radar over there. Diego Rodriguez asks.
You know, now the regulations in England is changing after Brexit. It's the next week. Normally we will know the next regulation. Now a Brazilian or Argentinian can be the same that a Spaniard. Then obviously need to put any situation for the GVI. We are waiting, and then perhaps it's true that one of the things about the Brexit is open new markets in South America, because now can be more open for try get them with the situation of the new work permit that is necessary to play here.
And David, it's popping here, so it seems like we are running out of time. No, David?
We have, sadly, but thank you in any case, Miguel Angel, for chairing the discussion. I think it was a very, very informative discussion. I think our panelists have spoken very, very candidly, very openly about their areas of business and their roles at their particular organizations. I mean, Victor, you and I know each other, and you've always been so open and very, very generous with your time, with things that we've worked on together. And no surprise here that you came up with some great bits of information, just telling us, what are the four uses of big data in player recruitment, technical risk, physical analysis, country transition, psychological side of things as well, but also that there is still a role for the intervention of the human eye in all of that. You cannot just automate the entire thing, but it does, represent a large part of the process. But the key is here, not just having the data, but working out how to use it and converting that information into knowledge. And then, just going further than that with what Juan Carlos was saying about turning that knowledge into decisions and acquisitions. Great to get some thoughts from you, Juan Carlos, on the broadcasting side of things. And, you mentioned lots of fantastic concepts that we really hope to see in broadcast going forward. Personalization is one absolutely big leap we can take. And I think that the fans are asking for that. They're getting even more sophisticated in what they're demanding, as I said at the start, using the data from Driblab, from the audience, talking about the advent of 5G and gambling, and obviously there are concerns there, and regulation is perhaps what is often needed as far as gambling is concerned, but it still seems to have a role to play in sports right now. From Ilhan, we saw the player side and how they can sense their own type of performance, but certainly for the ones engaged, and I think they will be engaged in the data side of things and how they can improve their own performance and search for those areas of weakness that they can make better. But also because, ultimately, the life of a footballer is a short one. And they will want to maybe consider other opportunities. And certainly where I'm from and where Juan Carlos is from in the media, if you can show that appetite for learning about data, then that can hopefully help you in the future as an analyst, like the Gary Nevilles and the Jamie Carragers of the future. I'm sure that particularly Víctor, but others are aware of exactly what they do live on Sky Sports. And of course, from Salvador, we heard about the tool, we heard about Driblab, what they offer to the media, that tailored info, that level of sophistication, which again is what we're striving for, what the audience are demanding, what they offer to agencies and national leagues and clubs, and covering the span of players and the ground that you do, Salvador. My goodness, 180 leagues, 150,000 players. That is quite a lot of work, quite a lot of data, big data, as they say. But listen, guys, hopefully I've done you guys justice in my sum up of your session. As I say, incredibly informative. Thank you ever so much to all of you for your insights, and thank you also to you, Miguel Angel, for directing the conversation so expertly as well. Right, okay, so we are 6 down and 2 to go on day 2 of WFS Live. And do you know what? I cannot wait for this next session because it involves the return of the WFS Beatles. Intrigued? You should be. See you in 5 minutes' time.